Welcome back to the Fierce Fish First Tech Challenge CAD modeling tutorial series. Our goal in this series is to provide guidance in using Autodesk Inventor for First Tech Challenge. In today's video, we are going to be looking at the basics of a 2D sketch. So now we're going to start in our video series looking at creating our own custom parts, and we're going to start in the 2D sketch realm because everything in Autodesk that is 3D comes from something that is 2D. So we have to basically walk before we can run in a sense. So we're going to start by looking at the basics of this 2D sketch just like we looked at the basics of an assembly. So let's go to the new tab here and we're just going to click on part. So now we're going to be working with part files and everything's going to load. And now let's see what there is to see here. So now we got our blank screen because there's nothing here right now. We've got on the left tab here, this is our model tab, and you'll see once we start doing things in 3D, our sketch and stuff, our sketches and all of these tools, whatever we create, will be over on this tab. Up here, all of this is for 3D right now, so we're not going to worry about any of that right now, except for the Start 2D Sketch, we'll be using that. And you've got your normal tabs up here. These up here are the same as from the assembly. Those don't change at all. This tab here, cool orange, you're probably not going to have that unless you have the same 3D printer as us, because this is our thread modeler for our 3D printer. So you'll probably end at either collaborate or get started. So yeah, let's go and start our 2D sketch. We just click in this top left, create 2D sketch, and you'll see now we have our work planes. And now we have to select a plane. This is the plane of our parts right now. We have the XY plane, the YZ plane, and the XZ plane. Depending on what you're creating is what plane you'll want to start on. So I'm just going to do the XY plane for now. And now we're going to be put into this area here. So you'll see we have our axes this way, the Y-axis. We have our X-axis this way. And this is our center point. Alright, so we're going to start out by looking at these tools right here just to create some basic geometry. Oh, and by the way, in the model view now, since we're inside of this sketch, everything else around it turns gray, kind of like it did when we entered a part in the assembly. And you'll see the sketch is now on this tab as well. So let's start out here by placing a point. And all a point is literally a reference point, basically. So you click your point, and you'll see now I have this little yellow dot following me around. And wherever I decide to click, that's where the point will be placed. And then if I want to stop placing points, I can right-click and press OK. So now we have our point here, and it is just free-floating. I can move it wherever I want. So now let's dimension it. So up here you'll see dimension. We're going to want to press dimension here. And this is where we can get our physical dimensions. So there's nothing else really that we can dimension this point from right now except the center point. So we're going to do that. Let's say that this is 1/2 inch from the center point. And that it's 1/4 inch up here. So I should probably explain how I'm doing this, okay? So let's delete. Okay, so I'm just clicking here on the point and then here on the center line. And then you can drag it wherever. And then once you click, this pop-up menu will appear with your dimension value. You can edit it to whatever you want, or whatever it needs to be per se. So 0.25, it'll also take fractions and expressions. So if I do 1 divided by 4, that's technically an expression. But if I had like a really long expression for some reason, which you will have most likely, then you can just put your expression inside of the tab there and it'll know your expression there. And also, let's say I wanted this to be the same as this. What I can do is click into this, delete this all, and then instead of typing in the 0.5, I can just click on the 0.5 and press OK. Now it'll see f of x 0.5, and if I change the 0.5 to say 0.25, that'll also change. So once you're out of the dimension view, right click and OK again, you can move these around wherever you want. These are not part of, say, the sketch. These are just for reference for you and so that things are constrained. And you'll see now I can no longer move this wherever I want. So that's a point. It's basically a reference point. So let's go now to a line. Got a line tool up here, and you'll see again we got the yellow dot following me around. If I click once, it'll start creating the line. So I decide wherever I clicked is where the line will start, and now let's say I want the line to end right here. Actually, I'm probably going to want to start with a horizontal line. It's very easy to create horizontal and vertical lines because it'll automatically think you want to create it when you're doing that, when you're somewhat close to it as well. And then by how you can dimension a line is just clicking on the line, selecting our length, and now this line is 1/2 inch long. Now again, this line can move wherever we want it to, so we can dimension the line to other things like this. We can dimension the line to the point from that view or from that angle. That's basically for you to explore though. So it'll be like less freedom. Like we have a lot of freedom in here right now, but once you start like having a purpose to your parts, it's not going to have that much freedom there. So that's a line, basically how you dimension it, and the line has endpoints. And it also has a center point in here, but we can't click it right now. But let's say we wanted to draw another line in the direct center. This will light up green here, knowing you're in the direct center of that line. Okay, let's go to a circle now. So a circle is this is a center point circle, so it's pretty self-explanatory. You click on the center point, and then you can just drag wherever you want. And now you have your circle. And the way we dimension this is if you click on the circle, this is now the circle's diameter. So let's say I wanted a 1/2 inch diameter circle. And now again, the circle size now can't change, but if we move the center point, we can take it wherever we want. So this acts just like a point. You can dimension the point to whatever you want, wherever you want, and stuff like that. So now there are a couple different options for circles. You have the tangent circle as well. I've never used the tangent circle because it's kind of like hard to do and very restrictive. Like if you see this example here that they kind of give you, you'll see it's very restrictive. So if you're doing something like that, you need like 3 points to be tangent to. That is very restrictive. But we also have the ellipse. You're probably not going to be using the ellipse a lot in First Tech Challenge, but it's there, so let's talk about it. What you do is you click, drag the length of your ellipse, and then drag it out here. Again, you may or may not be needing that, so I'm just going to go back to the circle here, escape, and now we are in here. Let's talk about a rectangle. So this one is a 2-point rectangle here. So what you're going to want to do is click once, drag, click again. Now your rectangle is complete. You can move it around. And the way we dimension a rectangle, these are all just a bunch of lines. So you can dimension the lines. You can, and to delete a dimension, you just right click and delete, by the way. And then if you wanted some that line to that line, but that's basically the same as clicking that line. All of that good stuff, you can probably figure out that. So there's also another kind of rectangle in here. The only other rectangle you'll probably use is 2 and a center, 2-point center. So right now, this is like when we did this rectangle, we clicked this point to this point. Now we're doing center point to a point on the rectangle here. So let's just say we want to use this point. That's what points are good for, honestly. Then you can drag it here. I'm not holding, I just clicked once, and now here you'll see the rectangle has a center point now, and it has diagonals as well. And then we can dimension this however we want. I'm going to undo that. And yeah, So let's talk about a polygon as well. It's a bit different. So polygon, this is an equilateral polygon. So if I do, let's say, a 8-sided polygon, that's an octagon, and we wanted this, you can do inscribed or circumscribed. That's just where the point is. So right now you're clicking your center point, and then the next point that you click is either going to be that point or that point, depending on your solution. So let's do right here. Click and click. And now we have our octagon. It's not perfect. We'll learn how to use these constraints later to make it like perfectly perfect. But you'll see once you dimension one of these, the whole thing gets dimensioned. And that's the beauty of the equilateral polygon, is everything is equal. So yeah, it's always going to be perfect. Let's also talk about the arc. Let's go over here. So the arc, the way you do this arc, there's a couple different types of arcs actually. It's going to start with a line like this. So you click, and then where you want the line, you're going to click again. And then you're going to drag where you want the arc. So let's say you want it here. Your arc center point is down here, so that if this were to be continued with a circle, that's the center point. And then we can dimension the arc like this. This is the radius of the arc. There. Then we can also dimension the length of the arc by clicking the endpoints, coming up and putting in that dimension. There's also this, I've never used the tangent arc, so I'm not going to pretend I know how to do it. But the center point arc I have used before. So it's kind of like drawing a circle, except you're drawing an arc. So let's go here, click once for your center point. Then you click, you'll see it's kind of like a circle. You click again, and then you click how many degrees you want your arc. So in some instances, that may be the better arc to use. Some instances, this may be the better arc to use. Alright, I'm going to delete that because it's kind of ugly. And text is pretty self-explanatory. You can just either make a box or click wherever. And you got these text options and stuff. Now you can type what you want in there. You press OK, and there it is. Now, there's one more thing we should look at before we finish, and that is fillet and chamfer. So fillet here, it basically rounds a corner. It can round a corner of pretty much anything. I'm going to do it on this rectangle here. So and here's the radius. I'm just going to leave it at 0.125. You're going to click on, let's say we want it in this corner here. You can either click on the corner there, and you'll see it's going to try to generate it, or you can click on this line and this line, and it's going to generate it. And let's finish that. Oops, I did not mean to do that. We'll get to how I did that in a second. But now you'll see we have the fillet with the 0.125 radius. It's very nice and rounded there. There's also one more we can do, and that's chamfer. And what chamfer does is kind of contrary to fillet. It makes it another line there. That can be useful in some situations. The fillet can be useful in some situations. But there you'll see the difference. It's pretty much the same thing except not rounded. So now let's say we're done with our 2D sketch. This is quite a mess. This is nothing like any of your 2D sketches will be. This is just me showing you what to do. Now we can go up here and finish our sketch, and you'll see it is on that XY plane. Now to get back in your sketch, you can double click on the sketch, and now you're back into it. And then finish sketch, and then to save it, just as we've done before, save as up there. And I don't want to save it because I don't need this for anything. And that's pretty much it for this video. We learned a lot of tools today. And a little later in this series, we'll model a full part so that you can get the full idea of when and why you would use these tools. And it's going to come kind of more as we go throughout the series anyways. So thanks for watching. From all of us here at Fierce Fish, we hope you have a great day.